Well, today we're very fortunate to have author Rich Marantz with us. Rich has just written a wonderful book called The Way of the Voice of Peace, and it is terrific. I was so taken in by it. I literally could not put this book down. It was just a joy to read. And in fact, our other copy of the book isn't even on the shelf. I had to go out and buy a second copy because the first copy that we have is circulating. Someone already has it. So we're delighted to have Rich with us today to discuss his book and his work as a Tai Chi instructor. So Rich, we're so happy to have you here at the library today. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
It's great to have a new author. I understand that this is your first book.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So what else have you written before you decided to tackle a book?
In the past, I've had some articles published for Tai Chi publications. I've written instructional manuals for my teachers around Tai Chi. And I've written kind of a booklet, I call it. It wasn't really a real book, I say. And I've just done a lot of writing in the past, just on my own. But this is my first attempt at a full book. Yes.
Okay. So Rich, can you tell us a little bit about your book? What is it about?
Sure, I'd love to tell you about the book. Basically, the book is a message from Spirit, for lack of a better word, that all of us have the ability to be at peace regardless of our life situation. And it's told through my story. So the book isn't necessarily about me, it's truly about this message. And each chapter tells different stories to illustrate the different components on the way toward peace, or on the way to being at peace, and the different components that are very important in that.
So Rich, how did you settle on the word spirit as the descriptor for what you're trying to convey, the message you're conveying?
Really, I see the term spirit as a kind of almost a generic term. There can be so many terms that we can talk about the I don't want to use the word entity, because it's not entity. It's really that which is not in the physical world, where we can really get information from. That it's deep within us, it's outside of us, we are connected to that, that's connected to us. So it's really a very generic term that I use, and I use in the book many other terms to convey that, because really none of them truly get the point across.
I know that at one point in the book you were naming different names for that which we can't see, we can't feel, we can't touch, but which connects us. And you also, the sense that I got as I was reading the book was that you would like to take your readers on an internal journey, an inner journey, to find the self within the self. Am I on the right track? Is that kind of what you were trying to do?
Yes.
And can you expand on that a little bit? I know you use wonderful personal anecdotes and memories in the book that really make that very clear. And must have been difficult for you to do that at certain times, and at other times probably very joyful to revisit certain moments in your life.
So to answer the first part of your question is that yes, it is an inward journey. I'm in the way of belief that the journey to connect with God or Spirit or the divine or Tao, as it may be, is not one of reaching outward. It's one of journeying inward to our original self, because that's where we really are connected and one with Tao or God or Spirit. So it is an inward journey. It can't be had by reaching in outward and striving. It's one by turning inward. So absolutely. To the second part of your question, some parts of this book were incredibly difficult to write. I did have to revisit some of these and describe them from that emotional place or that experience. Like when I had a near drowning experience, I had to relive that, and it was quite difficult. And there were some things that I didn't necessarily want to put in the book, but my editor really pushed me to do it, saying this will really clarify your point, and I was glad I did. And then there was other experiences, like you said, that were joyful, that I think about to this day, and it just makes me want to smile, So it was both very difficult and a joyful book to write, kind of like life.
That's right.
right? Because life has both.
Absolutely, lots of ups and downs. What was it that motivated you to write this book now, at this point in your life, Rich? Was there anything in particular that prompted that, or was it a culmination of many things?
So what brought me to write this book was truly, to put it simply, I received a calling. I mean, I don't sugarcoat it. You either believe it or don't. It's not up to me whether people do or not. But I received a true calling, and I was asked to share this message of peace. And I think that was a culmination of 2 decades of practice and a lifetime of maybe even searching, I don't know. But I received a calling to teach this message of peace. And after about a few months of that, I really was guided to write it down, to tell my story, specifically tell your story, and put this down. And I started it on a plane flight to Austin to teach for a weekend, and had no idea how to start, and I said, please tell me how to do it. And the first paragraph of the book came to me, and I didn't stop writing for 4 months. And I finished a year. It was published a year minus 1 week from the day I started.
Wow.
So because I was just driven the whole time.
And it sounds as though you were inspired.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Led and guided the whole way.
Rich, another thing that really struck me in reading the book, as a person who tries to work out on a regular basis and exercise and take care of my physical being, I was very taken with your description of how disciplined you are in the practice of Tai Chi. And I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit, because it seems so important, and sometimes it's just so darn hard to do it. So could you share with us a little bit of your experience about that?
The simplest way to kind of talk about that idea of discipline in a spiritual aspect is something we go through every day. If you want to live a good life, pay your bills, have food on your table, have a house to live in, a car to drive, you have to go to work every day. You don't say, well, I don't feel like going to work this week because I played the lottery, right? So I say, it's okay to play the lottery, but don't quit your day job. If you want to see result in your life, you have to go to work every day. And same thing while you're at work. You have to put in the best effort you possibly can if you want to keep that job and enjoy your job. So it's no different on a spiritual or a physical discipline, that we just say, look, this is what I need to do. If I want to see the result, that I need to keep my eye on the prize. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Have a purpose behind what we're doing. So I always have a purpose, a big picture purpose behind what I'm doing. And that's what keeps me going day in, day out with my practice. But it doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy to do that. It's easy to sit back and do nothing, right? But what's more important to me is what's worthwhile, not what's easy or difficult, as I mentioned in the book.
And I think in the book you mentioned a quote from one of your teachers, Tai Chi is simple, but it's not easy. It's hard work. So my question to you is, what is Tai Chi? And I guess the second part of that question would be, what does the term internal martial art?
Tai Chi is an internal martial art. So that tells us, for one thing, Tai Chi is a martial art. It's an art that came out of China, and it has 3 components to it. There is the martial art, there is the health and longevity aspect to it, so there's tons of benefit to our health. And then there's also a philosophical component to help us live a happy life, to be able to not fight against our lives. And it's practiced in a slow-moving series of postures, connected postures. The term internal martial arts signifies the difference of that we're not concerned with being stronger and faster and more powerful through our muscles and things like that. What we're looking to do is to use the mind instead of strength. So we use our mind first to move energy throughout our body, and then our body follows that movement, so we can be very soft and relaxed, yet have a lot of result, or in the case of martial art, a lot of power.
Rich, how did you find Tai Chi? Or in another way to put it, how did Tai Chi find you?
I had a injury at work, so I had a spinal injury that left me disabled and in chronic pain, and no therapies were helping me. And I ended up going to acupuncture for a little while, and that really helped. I had a chronic headache along with the spinal injury, and it really helped. So I went to the library. Back then we didn't have internet, so everybody, if you wanted information, you had to go to a library. And I got a book on Chinese medicine, and it mentioned Tai Chi, and I had been involved with fighting arts all my life, and so I was really interested in the martial art aspect in it. But I asked the acupuncturist if he knew somebody teaching. I lived near Tampa, Florida at the time, and he did, and I started my first lesson and practiced every day since. My practice involves daily practice. Every day I move, I breathe, I pay attention in both a formal and an informal way. So even when I'm not going through my physical practice, I'm always paying attention to the way my body feels, to the way I'm moving, to the way I'm breathing. But it really involves every day moving and going through my forms or my sequence of movement, in addition to a daily meditation practice that I have. And it's really rare that I miss a day, really incredibly rare that I miss a day. And then because of the benefit I've received and through my teachers' kind of permission and prompting and certifications, I also teach. So I have Green Mountain Tai Chi, and I teach classes all the way from martial arts classes to little kids to all the way up to the elderly. I teach seated movements and everything in between, because I think we all have the ability to realize health and peace.
Rich, what do you hope to achieve with your book?
There's both a personal answer to that and an outside answer to that, both an inward and an outside answer. The inward, I've already achieved it, was I received a calling, I listened to it, I acted upon it, and I followed through with it. That's all I could have asked to do, is I was asked to share a message, and I did that. And now I think what I'm seeing happening, I guess, more than what I'm kind of even hoping to achieve, because I'm not really sure, other than just sharing this message that we have this ability to be at peace, is that people can be reminded of their own story, that people can see that's not about me, that they can find within their own story, their own journey, the importance of that and all the lessons that they can learn to find that peace, to be at peace. And also that people understand that peace isn't somewhere to get to, that really peace is the beginning step, not the end step, that we begin at peace and move from there, not the other way around. And I'm hoping that people really can understand that and to see within their own stories the importance of their own lives.
That's a wonderful message and a wonderful purpose. One thing that I think our viewers would be very interested in, and certainly our library customers, would be if you could share with us some of your experiences in the process of becoming a writer, becoming a published author.
It was a great experience. I learned so much because I didn't go to school for this, but I got schooled in it real quick. The editing process was probably the most important piece to this. It cannot be done without an editor, for sure. And an editor, I think, that really understands what you're trying to say without changing what you're trying to say. So I was really fortunate that I ended up with 3 editors. Each did a very specific job that was just perfect for what I needed done. I had a great friend who was willing to do the cover for me. I employed somebody to do the design work for the inside of the book, and the Shire's Press was fantastic in walking me through the process of actually turning my copy into a book. So it was a great learning experience every step of the way. I think probably the most important thing that I did for myself, that I was happy that I did, was never get ahead of myself. That I stayed on point on what I was working on until I was ready to go to the next step. And I think that was really important. I really try not to look too far ahead and get into a fantasy of where I wanted to go. I really stayed with what I was working on at that moment in time. And usually I would see a step or two ahead, but I'd stick with what I was doing. But the editorial process was both incredibly difficult, yet really fun to do. So that was my process for writing it.
Rich, I just want to thank you so much for coming to the library today and sharing all your knowledge and your wonderful book with us. So Rich Marantz, author of The Way of the Voice of Peace, a terrific read, a wonderful story, very inspiring, as are you. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, and I love the Mark Skinner Library. It's a great place, and I appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you.